I'm with the CEO of American Eagle Gold. Tony, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, inviting me to the conference.
Definitely an interesting presentation there that definitely got a few laughs. The Charlie Gregg gangster photo was pretty cool. Definitely got my attention. But on a serious topic, $29 million from South32, that's transformational dollar amount. What do you do with that money now?
You put it all in the ground. You drill. You can focus on the company, long term. I think for us, you're always kind of looking behind your shoulders, being a junior mining company. I think very few are financially stable as we are right now. So, I think doing those big step outs, proving out the grade is something that we can finally do. It costs a little bit more money, so you need a lower cost of capital, and you need the ability to know that you're funded for 2 years, and which is where we are right now. So all that money is going to go in the ground. We got almost $40 million in the bank. The interest we get from that pays for our G&A. And then every dollar that we put into the ground in BC, we get 30% back from the government. So you put $10 million in the ground, you get $3 million back. So that $37 million over 4 years really is around $50 million. So I think investors are pretty safe to know that we won't be spending that on marketing or anything else. It's all going into the ground, which in reality, that's the only thing that's going to create sustainable shareholder value.
Yeah, that is interesting. The fact that you get 4% interest or 5% interest on the 30 million or 35 million in the treasury, and that pays for the corporate G&A. Not many junior mining companies can say that. Normally we're just thinking about how much cash are they burning, when's the next financing coming, and with American Eagle, there's no financing plan for quite a while. When the money came in, and suddenly you see your bank account nearly $40 million. Does anything change in the corporate strategy? What has changed for the company since that transformational event at the end of last year?
There's a little more pressure. We're stepping up into the bigger leagues. I wouldn't say the big leagues. But, really the strategy is the same. It's just we have more money, which means we can drill more, which means we can, fast forward this corporate plan that we have. And I said this in the presentation. I'd be lying if I said we're going to actually build this mine someday. We are explorers. We're there to drill it. We're there to de-risk it. And we're there to position ourselves to be taken out. So like the big companies like the Techs or the South32s can build it and be a mine someday. But that's what we're doing. But I just don't want to be around, and I don't have to name the companies, but there's a lot of copper companies out there, and they're hot 1 minute and they're not the next, and they're around for 25 years. We have a 24, month plan here. A lot of it's up to the rocks, but if we drill what we think is there, I think we can get to where we want to be.
Okay. It's mid-January. Last year you mobilized the rigs to a site in May. So, I assume we have a 4-month break with no drilling. What does the company do during the next 4 months, and how do you continue to raise the profile of the company?
We do a lot of marketing. We were up, you said this in the presentation, we were up 240% from January till May last year, just from no news, just marketing, having people know that we're out there. People do know we're out there now. And that's one of the reasons why you see these crazy swings in volatility. There's a lot of fast money out there. It's a TikTok world. People want high returns. Why else would you invest in junior mining where it's so risky unless you're going to get that 5x that makes up for your other, zeros? So when they don't see that, quick 200% gain, they sell you. And a lot of those long-term shareholders are holding the bag for a couple of months because it creates a little bit of contagion and people start selling off as well. But, with $40 million in our bank, we raised $40 million in the last year. We have 2 giant companies in a registry. I really want to emphasize that we're really going to leverage the brain power of Teck and South32 to help us out, pick their brain on geophysics, geochemistry, etc. So it's going to be a big team effort. And then in terms of what we're going to do in the off season, each of these holes, I always say, they're between $200,000 and $300,000. So you want to make sure you put it in the right place. So to spend $500,000 in the off season, it's like a penny on a Cadillac. So we're going to do some geophysics to refine our targets and really start. We're putting together the model right now. So we got a lot of these copper dikes. So where are these dikes coming from? We're pretty sure that they're coming together from somewhere. And how does Neil and Charlie, how do they interpret that? And then how does that help us drill next season. And then, understand this north stuff. This north stuff was a new discovery. We had never drilled there before, very minimal drilling in the past. And we hit a nice 500-meter stretch of over 0.3 just copper, 0.45 copper equivalent. Second hole intercepted it as well. So what does this mean? What does this mean for scale? And I think our very first drill hole next year is to go right back into that area, get a third pierce point, figure out how this thing is shaped, think about how big it can be. And I bet there's some higher grade lurking underneath there as well. So, it's boring work, but we're going to give our yearly plan in terms of where exactly we're going to drill probably in the next 3 weeks.
Okay.
And a lot of boring work in between there. And I think a lot of marketing. And I think bringing institutions for me is going to be a big focus, because we kind of hodgepodge together this company from the very beginning, a lot of retail, smaller retail. So we need those big institutions that are part of us, so when we get sold, they can buy up those blocks, or they can just buy up blocks and get our price up. But that's one of the problems with us doing like these great deals that we've done with Teck and South32, and even this raise we did in April. The problem is, Rob, everyone wants a paycheck, or they're not going to pay attention. And there's a lot of companies getting coverage that are smaller than us, and what's the reason? You're not writing that check to these banks, so they're not going to give you coverage. They're not going to introduce you to institutional investors. But I think right now a lot of these banks are saying, hey, this can be a takeover candidate in the next 12 to 24 months. Let's put them in our pipeline, and maybe in exchange for some sort of sales mandate down the line, they can give us some introduction institutions and some equity research. So that's what I'm kind of seeing right now. A lot of banks are approaching us.
You mentioned Steve Garwin and even had his picture in the presentation. I know that Nate Smith really loves Steve Garwin. I love watching Steve Garwin's stuff on YouTube, learning more about porphyry deposits and the process of exploring porphyry deposits. What plans does AE have for Steve Garwin, and are we going to see a presentation from him at some point in the future?
Yeah, so I never met Steve, and Nate Smith, big shout out, big supporter of our company, really smart guy. Become friends with him, just you talk to someone so much like yourself. He introduced me to Steve, and Nate's crazy. He talks to everybody in a good way. And he made that introduction, and we had a meeting with Steve, and I really, really liked him. I watched a lot of his YouTube videos. He probably has the best porphyry YouTube videos of anyone out there, and he has a lot of experience. He actually TA'd Charlie Gregg. So what we're going to do with Steve is he's going to do a 4-day kind of desktop study, do a model, make sure all of our data is proper. We're going to have to do that, and then he's going to do the model. So he's going to kind of give us some ideas of how he thinks this ore body is shaping, where we should drill. And it's 4 days instead of 3 days, because what I always want to do, whether I'm at a conference like Metals Investor Forum or Charlie's doing a speech up at in Vancouver, I want to be able to share whatever dollars that we spend on the marketing side. So, I asked Steve, I said, listen, you're going to give us a presentation. Can we take a video of it? Can we share it? So that's something that we're going to kind of put out there. And then Alan Wilson's actually coming back to site. He's doing something different. He'll be doing a model, but he's actually going to look at all the cores. So he'll be at our site for 5 days. So it'd be actually perfect at some point if we can get those two guys together. Maybe Nate can do the interview and talk to those guys, see what they think about, NAC and American Eagle Gold.
Final question, Tony, and this just popped into my head because we were talking about the valuation of pounds of copper, in the ground, and there's so many assets in Canada and the U.S. that are 2-3 cents per pound of copper in the ground. Would you consider, with the cash you have and the higher profile of the company, would you consider an acquisition, a new project, a new property? Would that be something that you'd contemplate?
It'd have to be the right project. I think I'd be absolutely crucified if our shares went down. They're trading $1.05 in December, and we're trading about 50 cents right now. I think if we use paper to make an acquisition right now, we'd be absolutely crucified. But if the right project does come along, I would say never. But right now our focus isn't to buy another project. We need to see some sort of near-term results. NAC is really advanced. Like, we can drill there. We see the light in their tunnel, potentially to de-risk this thing and prove it could be a mine. So, something else would have to be kind of similar. I don't see a lot of them out there.
Okay, exciting year ahead for AE at the NAC Copper Gold Porphyry Project in the Babine region of Canada. Thank you, Tony.